Well, I'm delighted today to be speaking to Michael Giraud from Standard Bank in Jersey. We're here at the Mount Nelson Hotel in Cape Town. Welcome, Michael.
Nice pants, David.
Thank you very much. So, looking forward to seeing you at the networking dinner tonight. You've been here on a big trip with your colleague, Chad. Have you had a nice trip to the country?
South Africa is always very, very welcoming. And having grown up here, it's been absolutely wonderful to be back. The food, the people, the socializing, the general attitude to life has been wondrous. And of course, business, which is why we're here. Yeah.
Super. And you've been with Jersey Finance on the roadshow that they had two successful events in, well, more than two, but they had successful events in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Perhaps you could tell us first about the Johannesburg event.
Yeah, so I was on a panel where we're talking about ESG and family offices and impact investing, and I was approaching it from a trustee's perspective. And it's fair to say it was a very involved audience, as you would expect from Joburg. Everyone had something to say, be it sensible or nonsensical. And it was an absolute wondrous debate. You know, we explored all sorts of differences in impact, ESG, when you might use it, when it's suitable for trust structure, when it's not suitable for trust structure, how trustees approach investing. It was a very good discussion.
Was there any consensus on the floor, any takeaways from the session?
Yes, there was certainly a discussion that impact investing is certainly on the increase. There was a view that maybe it came much more from Europe and North America. From a trust perspective, which of course is the way I approached it, it was that you need a suitable structure for it. You need suitable protection for the trustee. And also, it's quite unlikely that all the family's investments would be impact investments. So you might also have an ESG slant. And then the ESG takeaway was that certainly the bar has been raised with investing on in a developed market perspective where there's much more awareness around the social impact, the governance, the ecological side. So there's a question of has anything changed in the last 10 years? And I think the consensus was, by the fact we were there talking about it and people were aware of it, that it definitely has.
Okay, and on the family office piece, is there any sort of trends that you observe? Was there anything from the conference or outside in your wider practice that you observed from the family office sector here in South Africa?
From the family office sector here in South Africa, I mean, the family offices we work with, they tend to be, well, first I suppose we need to look at the families who have family offices, and they tend to be extremely wealthy, I mean, just by definition. And they tend to be highly mobile. And so even though they might originate from maybe South Africa or an African country, they tend to be based very much on a global basis. They have a global footprint. And so as a trend, I'd say it's families who have originated from Africa, who are maybe resident elsewhere, or the majority is resident elsewhere, who are maybe doing this type of investing. But there is a general awareness of it. Also, second generation tend to be more, let's say, have more of an appetite for it than maybe first generation as well. So that's probably the consensus around family office.
And I mean, diversification has been a theme that's cut across many of the conversations I've had with practitioners here in South Africa, with successful South African businesses going overseas, setting up branches in UK, in Europe, in the US. I mean, are these the sort of major markets you see South African families going into to diversify and expand abroad?
Yeah, look, you find South African families always have one eye outside of South Africa. If they're wealthy, we've seen structures established in the past through the family's corporate entities, where they look to get diversification in terms of the currency risk, the political risk, and also the asset risk, where they set up, they expand into Europe. UK is always very, very popular. I mean, as a bank or as a trustee, we're seeing more and more families maybe moving to hubs like Dubai as well. It tends to work well if people want to establish structures. Obviously, it's tax neutral. It's also good from a time zone perspective, international hub, and it's quite tax friendly as well. We have historically seen families looking towards Portugal, but I think there's things happening there with the the Golden Visa. I'm not too sure if they're amending the terms of it or if they're stopping it. I haven't kept quite up to speed on that.
A lot of programs are in flux, aren't they?
So yes, they are. Yeah.
And you're also been part of Jersey Finance's roadshow down in Cape Town as well. So perhaps give us a little flavour of what the Cape Town event had in store.
Cape Town was very similar to Joburg, apart from the audience was probably a little less involved. I mean, it was still very interactive. It was still very well attended. It's just, I mean, those who know people from Joburg, they just tend to be a little bit more assertive, maybe, I think, would be my view.
And it's some of the same themes and
themes,
trends that are coming?
Exactly the same themes. Yeah, it was exactly the same themes. You know, there's trustees, as trustees, we're very open to doing all sorts of investments. And the key theme from a trust perspective is we need to sit down with the families, discuss their requirements, what they're actually looking to achieve, their strategies, their needs for capital, and then implement an investment plan, an investment strategy. And that might be, you know, ESG, might be a slither of ESG, or impact. You know, there'll be a smaller slither, of course, because the returns aren't quite monetary. There's often other returns which people look to change the world and make more of a social impact. Is
there a perceptible difference between the advisors based in Johannesburg and Cape Town or across the country, or is it really the type of international advisors you deal with are dealing with the similar clients and challenges?
I think it's similar clients.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the saying that people live in Joburg to make money and people move to Cape Town to enjoy their money. And I don't know if maybe the advisors, the way they plan, that's taken into account maybe. I mean, when you look at the surroundings here, I mean, Cape Town's just wondrous. I mean, I think Chad actually wants to move back here. I mean, he's been walking around with a big smile on his face. Never seen a man so happy in all my life.
And Standard Bank's obviously got a huge franchise across Africa and in South Africa. So when you come down and make on these trips, do you also try and interact with colleagues and try and find ways to build business together?
You know, it's a pleasure coming to South Africa with Standard Bank. And I think we sponsored your Joburg event.
Absolutely.
And when I stood up and spoke as the silver sponsor, jokes aside, I've been to these events where people stand up and speak and they spend 25 minutes explaining who the firm is, what they do, to stand up in Joburg and say I'm from Standard Bank, and everyone right away knows who Standard Bank is, what they do, why we do it. It's just an absolute pleasure. I mean, the brand recognition is huge.
So is this your first trip to South Africa in the post-COVID sort of era, or you been back before now?
I was actually over about 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Oh, right.
For a day and a half.
Wow.
With Standard Bank to pitch to a ultra high net worth African family who are based in Southern Africa, and it's great. It's great to be back. It's opened up again.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the country suffered a lot during COVID. I mean, some of the rules were a bit confusing, and it was very difficult, I know, for lots of families. But everyone seems to have sprung back. The economy is coming back. People are opening up. People are filling up the offices again. Work's flowing like it did before. It's good.
Great. And what are your plans for 23? I mean, will you make, do you kind of map out the year in terms of trips that you might make? And then obviously, if there's pitches, you know, you jump on a plane and get involved. So, I mean, what's 23 look like, do you think?
So 2023 is exactly that. So we're hoping to maybe do sort of a Standard Bank roadshow at some point to really try and showcase what we can do in the offshore sense. Also partnering with a few big service providers on the outsourced CIO office, also the planning, also working with family offices.
I mean, is the local knowledge here, professional knowledge, good? Do you find it's at a good level and you just can fill in some gaps, or you just sort of place some observations as to what you see from Jersey on the market here?
It's a bit funny because I think what happens in Jersey confuses people. People aren't really quite sure what we do, and certainly I got the impression from the panel discussions I was having the last few weeks, is people aren't actually quite sure what an offshore trustee does. And I think there's a bit of confusion between the local trustees do and sort of how the offshore's evolved. I mean, the fact that it's regulated, the fact that there's all the international reporting, the fact you're dealing with ultra high net worths, you have sophisticated cross-border estate plans, different assets. I don't think people appreciate just actually what goes into running a big structure like that. So it is going to be part education.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to just get some of those issues out in the open and get that dialogue going, isn't it? It'd be fascinating.
There seems to be a need for it. we're looking forward to it. It's at our discussion stage at the moment, but it's something we want to do. And then there'll be ad hoc trips, like you said, and everything we do at Standard Bank is African focused. So African by way of origin, investment. So where we hunt for business and the families we work with tend to always have that African connection. And east, south, west, it keeps us very busy.
And do you find that the London scene of intermediaries focused on Africa is also pretty active and vibrant? I mean, I know colleagues on the banking side have hosted some really good receptions in London that activates that professional community, but what do you see?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any one firm who is specifically African focused. With the private client, the lawyers and the accountants, they tend to have African clients, but there doesn't seem to be a specific specialism. They're trying to build out practices often, and invariably when someone's trying to build out an African practice, they come and knock on our door because we're the African bank, and they try and piggyback as much as they can. But I mean, London intermediaries, they're also a great source of, first advisors for us as well, because everything we do is in tandem with the advisors, because we don't really want to set a foot wrong, because it can get very expensive.
It's about getting the right team, isn't it, in place?
It's about the team, and it's one of the things we say to families as well, is it's not about getting advice, walking away, then taking advice a few years later. It's just a constant thing, and we are one of the spokes segments in the wheel. We are the trustee maybe, or the banker, and then you have the advisors, and you have maybe outsourced CIO office, you have the concierge, you have the education guys, it's all just, everyone used to work as a team. And it's important as well that the people try not to get too greedy, and if there's someone better at doing something than them, just let them do it as well.
Terrific. And you're about to take some holiday here in the country. I mean, you're looking forward to taking a little bit of break at the end of this year?
It's fair to say I'm very much looking forward to it. I think if you speak to anyone who says they aren't looking forward to doing the garden route in South Africa, they are clearly partially insane, or just don't know what they're talking about. So I'm very, very, very much looking forward to my break,
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks to you and to Standard Bank for sponsoring us in Johannesburg. It's been terrific to see you over the last 10 days, and we look forward to sharing this interview.
Thank you. Maybe we can have a brandy and Coke later.
I'd like that.
There we go.
The latest technical content delivered through global conversations with professionals for professionals.